reviewing the same information, but we've done a thorough review of that information over many weeks, and our conclusion is that the development has no significant impact on existing flooding.
So I think we have a proposal to defer. We have heard from WSP that it's their belief that if we defer this for a month, we'll be looking at the same information in a month's time. Is that what you're really saying? You're saying there's no additional information to add?
That's correct. And an important point to make also is there are total 5 planning conditions, I think, which allow the detailed design to be thoroughly reviewed before any construction takes place. So it's not the end. This is only an outline design. The detailed design will be checked through.
And just one other thing that might be useful just to clarify is I am only a layperson who has had a protracted involvement in the planning process, but I have seen, and I think many members of the committee who've served a fair amount of time on the committee, have seen proposals that we reject go to planning appeal, be approved by the planning inspector and be returned as such as a fait accompli with less significant planning conditions than the ones that we originally considered.
No, I'm
just saying. So I just think we need to bear in mind we've heard that there are a set of conditions here that we're not likely as a council to want to change. But anyway, we have a valid proposal proposed by Lindsay and seconded by Rochelle.
Can I just ask a question before we go forward? Would those 5 conditions still be available if we ask for deferral?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
If we do defer it, can the applicant go to appeal because we haven't made a decision in this timescale?
That's right, yes.
What you must just say?
Yeah. The applicant has indicated, because it has been deferred since from December, they have indicated that
Sorry,
they
it
would
wasn't
like
deferred, it was withdrawn.
it was deferred from the committee.
We never deferred it.
It was deferred. No, members didn't defer it, officers deferred it for further
The
information.
report says really the application's deferred. Just the other thing is, in view of what Claire said, this application's been on the go for 44 weeks. The norm for this type of application, the guide is 13 weeks. So whilst, as Claire said, yes, sorry, the developer would say he'd go to appeal if we don't make a decision for non-determination. I think the fact that it's already 44 weeks old increases the chances of that. But anyway, as I was saying, we have a successfully proposed proposal to defer this. Lindsay, could you just clarify for a bit of bidding what will be achieved by that deferral before we take a vote on it?
Sorry?
So, could you just confirm what the purpose of the deferral is in view of what we've heard from WSP in terms of they will be bringing back the same information as they just presented tonight?
Well, this was the first time we saw this letter was tonight.
Sure.
I think it's
It did go out on the update yesterday. That was part of the update that we received yesterday. You know, we have a members' update goes out the
I
day.
don't remember sending it through. I'm just trying to think here because
I'm anxious that
I don't
want to defer it just because it's a difficult decision. I want to defer it for a clear reason.
Well, I'm not sure I can, because if we've got WSP, the trouble is that none of us here are expert enough to know that what the answers we got here clears all the answers. And I'm still concerned with the fact that there are different opinions. You always will get that between professional people. And we're sat in the middle. If we had a full answer back that had said, that clearly indicated there was nothing to do. We've got a 3-page letter, which is a very technical letter, and I haven't had an indication that what the alternative from the resilience group says that what he was proposing was wrong. All I've got is a big long letter to say that does not assume this and does not I don't know. It doesn't give me a black and white answer, so far as I can see at the moment. So maybe I'll have to ask further of WSP to clarify what they have indicated in layman's speak as to what the Swallowfield Resilience Group's consultants have said, and why they don't agree with what he has said, other than the fact it wasn't calibrated. Can I do that?
Try. I could try, but I can only repeat that he says that he can't summarise because he hasn't reviewed the information. So, I mean, the detail.
So quote, WSP haven't reviewed the information.
No, he hasn't.
He has.
We've reviewed all the. He's not been part of the information, so he hasn't. His summary is that he can't conclude anything. So it's difficult to object to what he's saying when he hasn't said anything. In summary.
Okay, I just remind the committee that my introduction to tonight's committee, I made the point that we are advised here tonight by a series of professionals. We are lay people. Okay, we're elected representatives. We try and balance those responsibilities. But we're advised by professionals, and we've had their advice tonight from WSP that they've looked at this scheme. There's obviously, because 44 weeks have gone past since the scheme was first submitted, there's clearly been modifications and one hopes improvements to the scheme. And I accept your point, Lindsay, that there's a lot of technical information there. That's why we have the professional officers here to interpret that information for us, and they're giving us an interpretation of it. It's up to us to decide whether we feel that is an appropriate interpretation or whether that would be unsafe to accept their professional interpretation.
To save time, I think I'll have to withdraw my thing because I haven't got sufficient detailed information enough to do that, but I do have concerns.
Yeah, just a very quick statement really that, I'm very unhappy with the application, but for two reasons I will support it. One is the fact that the applicant's got a gun to our head and go to appeal and probably win. And two, the fact that at least we do have some stringent conditions. So I'm placed in a position where I have really no option but to support it, unhappy though I am.
I also have some concerns that this sat so long with planning that we have no option. And that it went 44 weeks through planning and including deferral, that we had no option to defer it for a month to be able to do this for our information as well. And I'm uncomfortable with that. I think that we should have the applications in adequate time that we can do this in the future, if possible.
Well, Lindsay, you made a proposal. Are you sure you want to do that? I'm quite happy to put that to the vote.
I can't. You want a reason for it, and it's been. I can't find the right words because we're just saying he hasn't got the right information, and I can't. I have to pass. So withdraw it.
Okay. Do any members wish to make any other alternative proposals? Other proposals available to you are proposals to refuse the application. We've considered a proposal to defer, which has been withdrawn. I see no one indicating, so the only other option available to us is to consider the officer's recommendation, which is that, this is clearly stated in the report, which is to approve the application subject to all of the conditions contained in the report, plus the additional information that's contained in the members' update. So all members wishing to support the recommendation, could they please indicate? And are you abstaining or voting?
I'll go against.
So one abstention and against. That application is approved. Thank you very much. Hello. Order. So we reconvene the meeting. Thank you, everybody. We are now moving on to the next application report, which is the application submitted by Reading Football Club. It's obviously a large-scale application, it's obviously created a public interest as well. Just to confirm before we go on to main part, that the members spent nearly 2 hours on site last Friday morning, had an interesting walk around the site and looked at a number of the existing derelict buildings, some of the buildings of historic and heritage interest, had a look at the lake, had a look at the redundant small golf course. So I think members are very familiar now with the site. So without further ado, we'll go straight over to Ashley Smith, who's going to be presenting this application. And just for reference, I have speakers for and against the application as well when we come on to that.
Thank you, Chair. As previously stated, members visited the site on Friday. I'll try to show a number of images of what they saw. The application is for the redevelopment of the site for use as a new training facility for Reading Football Club, as well as the creation of 18 new residential units that have been converted or rebuilt buildings. The site is located in the countryside and within a Grade 2 historic park and garden. The park is currently on the English Heritage at Risk Register. The proposal does not significantly impact on neighbouring properties in terms of bearing loss of light or overlooking, and officers are content that new activity will not cause loss of amenity subject to conditions. There are currently no objections from the Conservation Architect, Borough Ecologist, Trees and Landscapes Officer, and additionally the Highway Authority is satisfied that the proposal will not lead to adverse highway impacts. English Heritage have been heavily involved with this proposal and do not object to the proposal subject to the provision of Conservation, Landscape and Environmental Management Plan, which I'll talk about later. The proposal is in front of the committee because it's a major application and also officers consider there is some conflict with the development plan. However, the scheme is recommended for approval as officers consider that the harm to rural character and the impact on the designated countryside is considered to be outweighed by the special circumstances and need of the applicant, as well as the benefits to the historic environment, ecology, landscape, and several other issues. This slide shows the red line boundary of the application. Members will note that this covers around about 50 hectares. We walked around much of it on Friday morning, and the site includes the Bearwood Park Lake. As previously detailed, the park is Grade 2 star listed. That includes the entire park, which is made up of this site, the Bearwood School site, and the Bearwood Lakes Golf Club. This slide shows the master plan. As previously detailed, this scheme will be the main headquarters and training facilities for Reading Football Club. The proposal will incorporate a large number of football fields located in the northern part of the site, as well as a first team training building, academy building, and a number of other ancillary facilities relating to the football club. The residential accommodation is to be located adjacent to the lake in a mill building, which we'll go into later. This slide here shows a historic map of the Bearwood Park site. It showed the reason why this has been incorporated was just to show that the park had open areas of vistas in the northern part of it, and some of these are going to be restored. Although the football fields obviously aren't a completely accurate reconstruction of that, these weren't largely forested or woodland areas. This slide shows the existing 9-hole golf course which we walked on Friday. Again, this is where the football pitches will be provided. This is Park Lodge, one of the Grade 2 listed buildings on site. This will provide the security and visitor centre for the football club. West Lodge, which is the building located next to the first team building, which will house academy trialists and more senior academy players. We walk around the Wall Garden, which is the site which will incorporate the academy building. As members will have noted on Friday, the building is of less great height than the wall around the garden, and the building will only be seen from the south on the access road to the residential building, as well as some oblique views from Mole Road. This is the inside of the Wall Garden. This is the inside of the wall garden where the academy building will be located, and the existing farm building will be removed. Again, we looked at the lean-to building as well, which is going to be refurbished. This slide shows the buildings that we walked around, which incorporated the workshops and existing residential elements of the site. As we saw, there are currently 8 residential units on the site there, and a number of dilapidated buildings or buildings containing workshops, including this significant mill building, which is to be restored as part of the proposals. Mole Road is a well-vegetated road leading south from Winnersh towards Arborfield. It's well-vegetated, which offers significant screening of the site, and this screening is to be reinforced as part of the proposals. Here we see more of the screening. There are 3 main access points to the site at the moment. There's the existing access point which serves the golf course, the access point that serves the mill, and the access point that serves the riding stables. The riding stables entrance, which is this one here, is to be stopped up and to be used for emergency purposes only. The Mole Lodge access for the mill, which we parked out on Friday, is to be the main access for servicing and for the residential units. The golf course entrance, which is the more substantial entrance onto the existing car park, will be the main thoroughfare for visitors to the site, players, etc. Okay, so that was just the general context of the development site. So we'll move on now to the actual proposal and buildings. A range of buildings are proposed to accommodate the club's need. The club currently trains at Hogwood Park, which is on the outskirts of Arborfield in Champstead Ward, which they obtained from the MOD a number of years ago. The facilities, to put in context, football clubs now are required to follow the elite player performance standards, and Reading Football Club is currently a temporary Category 1 club and seeks to maintain that status by providing high quality training and academy facilities comparable to other clubs. The first main building proposed is the first team training building. This will incorporate facilities for training and player development, as well as office facilities relating to the club, canteen facilities, and this will be closely linked to the academy facilities, and I'm sure those speaking on behalf of the scheme will detail. The philosophy behind it really is to develop a kind of campus feel, and where the academy and the first team are closely linked, and there's a clear career path through from the academy to the first team, and so the courtyard areas and canteens will be between the first team building and the academy, and that will kind of lead to more mixing and more integration between teams. As members will note, there are lots of facilities such as gym facilities, changing, and similar items proposed. The FA publishes regulations on what's generally expected for clubs to achieve Category 1, and these have been reviewed by officers and also compared to comparator clubs within the Championship and Premiership, and found to be broadly comparable with other recently improved schemes. The academy building will house more junior players for the teams under 18, and will incorporate classroom facilities for educational teaching as part of player development, as well as the necessary training facilities to bring these players on. Both sets of buildings are relatively modern, but final material details is subject to agreement with the local authority, and English Heritage are having some input on the final cladding materials. Moving on. As previously detailed, the lean-to building will also be retained, which is at the top of this plan, and that's to be refurbished for more academy buildings. The headquarters building is located, if I move back to the master plan, I'll probably put this more in context. This is the master plan, so the two two large white buildings here. This is the University building, this is the Academy building, and the headquarters building will be relocated here. Also note that the indoor pitch previously proposed has been withdrawn from the scheme. That was relocated here and has been replaced by some amount of planting. The headquarters building will be used for more kind of board activities and negotiations and similar issues. And is also a modern building. During negotiations and pre-application, this building's been moved back from the shore of the lake. It was previously located right on the water's edge, which was considered to have a harmful impact upon the historic environment. However, following negotiations, the scale of the building's been reduced and it's been put into a position that we're now happy with. As previously detailed, a number of pictures will be provided. This will lead to the removal of the significant amount of planting which was put in the 1980s to support the golf course. I showed previously the plan relating to the historic layout of the site, and you'll notice that clusters of trees are in approximately similar positions to where they're proposed now between buildings. Similarly, this isn't going to be a large-scale cut and fill. Really, it's going to be the pitches are going to be carefully graded to ensure that large parapet walls, etc., aren't required to, and terracing aren't required to have them on site. So that's been carefully thought through, and the conservation officer and landscapes officer are happy with the resolution reached. A residential element is incorporated in the scheme where I previously showed, and we saw the buildings earlier. This will incorporate 26 residential units, a net increase of 18 on the site. These are located within existing buildings, although buildings 11, 12 and 13 require some fairly substantial rebuilding work, which is covered in the report. There are some conflicts with minimum distances, but these cover existing relationships. For example, plot 6 and 7 have a poor relationship with plot 11. However, the relationship existing on site is significantly worse at the moment, so this is a betterment of the existing situation. This plan shows typical residential layouts. We saw on Friday the kind of courtyard layout around the buildings, and as the elevations show, it's really reusing the historic fabric to bring these buildings forward. This slide shows an artist's impression of the site, so we can see how all the buildings operate together. The building in the background is the indoor pitch, which has been removed, but it shows nicely how, for example, the first team building, which is undeniably a large building, slots well up in the landscape, and some real thought's been given to how it will slot in behind large-scale vegetation and sit on existing footprint. Right, there are a few other issues to cover on it. As previously detailed, the proposal isn't considered to fully accord with the development plan. It doesn't fit within the exceptions listed within Core Strategy Policy CP11, although the NPPF does lend support to development for sporting venues, and therefore the decision will always be a decision that is on balance, and so the benefits of the scheme need to be weighed against the harm of the scheme, which takes me on to those issues. The main harm identified to the scheme really is the harm to the rural locality. As outlined, there are buildings of a significant size, scale and mass being introduced to a countryside location, and so that in itself is harmful to the rural locality. And so really there needs to be significant benefits put forward to outweigh that harm. The main two issues here are the need of the club, which I've already detailed and is detailed at length in the report, but more importantly, benefits to the historic environment. The park is Grade 2 star listed and on the English Heritage at Risk Register, so really there needs to be some form of mitigation or benefit derived to the wider historic environment. You'll recall from my report, public benefit can be derived from the securing of a long-term future for a historic asset, and this is a very significant historic asset in the context of the borough, really. I've outlined the history of the site within the officer's report, and so any benefits that can be secured and making sure there isn't long-term harm or further degradation of the park will be a significant benefit. So on that basis, officers have recommended approval subject to a conservation landscape and environmental management plan. The main benefits secured by this plan will be the restoration and enhancement of the Pool and Light Garden, which is located off-site within Bearwood College. This is a rock garden of significant heritage benefit, and English heritage are very keen to see it restored. Similarly, there's been significant growth within the park, which has blocked off key vistas and views, particularly across the lake from the college as well as other areas, and so the plan will secure the enhancement and improvement of these features. Similarly, giving the restoration of the mill is another benefit of the scheme. So we've got a building which is unsafe and at risk of collapse in the future, and so by securing a residential future in there and the wider enhancements of the park, we can really get some measurable benefit from this scheme. There is significant separation distance to residential properties, with a separation of 80 metres from any built form to any residential elements. The scheme will secure 60 jobs within the borough, although a number of these are already existing at the Hogwood Park site. However, they will remain in the borough rather than going to an alternative site, potentially outside of the area. That doesn't include any jobs from footballers or academy players. A negative against the scheme is there will be some loss of the loss of the equine centre at the site, which is a great shame. I've given a proportioned some limited weight against the proposal in my report. It is a real shame to see it go. However, it is on a short-term lease. And equine uses are acceptable within rural locations, and so alternative sites could be considered for this use. Other issues weighing against the scheme would be any form of development within a historic park, really, unless it's restoring the park exactly to how it was before, will be by definition harmful. However, mitigation has been provided through other things. There'll also be some limited weight contributed by the loss of the existing uses on the site, both the equine use and the low-scale commercial use. In favour of the development, as outlined, is the benefit to the historic environment through the securing of a long-term viable use for the site, and crucially the securing of the Conservation Landscape and Ecological Management Plan. Officers attribute this very significant weight, and the securing of the future of this heritage asset is considered to be of significant public benefit. The needs and special circumstances of the applicant are also given significant weight by officers, and moderate weight is given to the ecological and landscaping enhancement provided by the scheme, as well as the maintenance of jobs within the borough. Some very limited weight is also provided by the addition of windfall housing. It's considered by officers that on balance, and that is really the key term here, that the scheme should be supported and that the benefits outweigh the harm. Finally, I'll just cover the issues that have been raised in the members' update. Members will note the recommendation A has fallen away because it's clear that section 6 will not be completed by the critical date. The scheme will therefore become still liable. On the site visit, members inquired over the height of the headquarters building, and it needed to be as tall as shown. The building is 5 metres tall and 6 metres over the section where it's slightly stilted where the ground slopes down, and also 34 metres wide and 10 metres deep. Officers took this issue up with the applicant as requested, and the applicant has indicated that they don't consider the ceiling height to be plant and maintenance equipment will be installed internally, which means the building will be of more aesthetic quality and less harmful to the health of the asset. We've had a response from the Environment Agency, who have formally withdrawn their technical objection to the proposal, subject to the recommendation of new condition 57, which details basically drainage for the site. We haven't yet had comments from WBC Drainage on the new details, but I suspect they'll probably be very much in line with what the Environment Agency has put forward, although that may be a further matter to delegate just in case there's any difference between the condition recommended by WSP. Members requested a condition relating to helicopters to protect residential amenity of residents, so condition 58 has been recommended, which also includes an exception for air ambulances to attend the site if there was, for example, a sporting injury. Condition 46 has been updated to bring the hours of construction back in line with borough standards, and members also expressed concerns over the letting out of the building, so that has been covered by amendments to condition 4. Finally, comments and clarifications have been provided in relation to comments received from the Midwest Berkshire Local Access Forum, who requested that more accurate reflection of their comments was provided. So that's a direct quote. And there was the People's Trust for Endangered Species was erroneously missed from the original report, and so that has also been covered. I think that's all I've got for the moment, but I'll pass it to you, Jeff.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. Right, we now come on to the registered speakers, and I've got Mr. and Mrs. Coe and Liz Connolly speaking as local residents. I assume you've made arrangements to manage your total of 3 minutes between you. Okay. As I always say to people, the first person uses 2.5 minutes, tough. Okay.
I run a livery stables at Carter's Hill Arborfield. The red boundary line of this site encompasses what is locally known as the horse crossing of the B3030. This has been the subject of well-supported campaigns since 2002. This crossing forms a circular route and is part of the Woking Borough Council Rights of Way Improvement Plan. Traffic speed, volume and complete lack of sight line is now recognised as too dangerous to cross on horseback, and also for walkers, cyclists and cars. I implore Woking Borough Council to ensure that funding is set aside for essential safety improvements for all users by installing a Pegasus crossing and a reduction in the speed limit when considering this application. This is a golden opportunity, and if missed, will be one more nail in the coffin for the equestrian community in the Woking Borough.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Local Access Forum wishes to express its dismay that both its comments to this application and its equestrian advice have not been given due weight by Woking Borough Council. Land required for a controlled, safe crossing lies within this site, some owned by the developer and some by Reading University Farm, the latter being a section of long-term unproductive farmland. There is therefore a realistic possibility of providing a safe crossing on a dangerous route, both for pedestrians and cyclists leaving and arriving the new housing development of this application who need to travel sustainably, and existing byways users need a safe crossing, so please provide a controlled crossing and link with existing public rights of way.
How long have we got left, Simon?
We've got 1 minute 20 seconds.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, whilst I'm not against the approval of this planning application, it does result in a loss of amenity as a consequence of the loss of the golf club, the closure of the riding stables and the loss of local businesses. I would therefore ask that any approval be conditional on the provision of a horse crossing where byway 4 meets the B3030 or other sustainable location, and the reduction in the speed limit on the B3030 to mitigate the added risk of the housing junction and to ensure that cyclists, walkers and equestrian users can safely cross the road and make full use of the greenways. This can be funded from, I was going to say the 106 agreement, but now it's the SIL. It will be a condition of planning. I'd also ask that the working of the SIL and its implementation be overseen by the chairman of this committee to ensure that these objectives are met, because the chairman of this committee is an accountable person to the public and not an officer of the council. This will then in some way compensate local residents for the loss of amenity and disruption for the development and the inevitable that it will inevitably bring. I would also point out that Arborfield now has a village design statement, and two things in that statement say that it's important that the community is not split by increasing traffic on roads, making it impossible for residents to use local facilities and be involved in their community. And the ability to cross the B3030 by the large equestrian contingent in our area is very important to the locality. And if you read the history of Arborfield, you'll understand why. And there are lots of
summarise now.
Sorry, there are lots of families, dog walkers, equestrian users, cyclists who use the network of byways, which is actually a policy which Woking Borough Council are supporting latterly with the introduction of cycle lanes, etc. So it's the loss of amenity I'm concerned.
Okay. Thank you very much. And then I invite we've got Hint and Nigel Howe. You're speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, we are, Chairman. Can I start by introducing Nigel Howe, who's the Chief Executive of the Football Club, and Nigel would like to say a few words in opening.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the way this application has been dealt with. It's a very complex application. We've had a lot of professional guidance from English Heritage and the consultees and your officers, which has been very helpful in us progressing this. We have a Category 1 academy. There's only 22 Category 1 academies in this country. We're very privileged. We've worked for this for a long time at the football club, and we want to continue to maintain this. Our existing facility at Holbrook Park, which we've progressed over a number of years, is now too small, and we need to move on. We would hope that what our application is going to improve and enhance an existing Grade 2 listed park, and I would also add that we would go to whichever way we can to support some of the comments that were previously made by some of the objectors to enhance the area further.
Thank you. Can I start just by responding to, I think, the point that was made by the last speaker, or two of the three speakers, which is about the improvement to the equestrian crossing at Moral Road. First of all, confirm that insofar as the land is within the control of the football club, it would be quite happy to make land available for an improvement at that point. Of course, the funding of it, as has already been pointed out quite correctly, is now a matter of a SIL rather than Section 106 contribution, but we can make land available, and hopefully that is a helpful contribution. Very quickly, by reference to the update report, just to make it clear that there was no intention to use helicopters to and from the site. But lest it remain a concern, we have no objection to the condition that's proposed. The final point I just want to make is this. A key benefit of the scheme, obviously, is the delivery of the conservation landscape and the ecological management plan. This is something which the club is taking on as its responsibility, covering not just the area of land it is purchasing, but also the whole of the registered park, working together with the other owners involved. This is something which is going to take a little time to complete. Section 106 agreement, and it will still be Section 106 in this regard, will confirm the commitment to it and confirm the commitment to finance towards it. But the actual delivery of the final document will take a little time to negotiate. I would simply ask that, through you, Chairman, that if there is a possibility of giving some flexibility of the timing by which that document is delivered, that you ask your officers to consider whether, in concluding the 106 agreement, we could have some flexibility so that import facilities, which is the start of creation of the new junior pitches, the northern end of the site, can get underway whilst we're finalising that document. There's a very clear intention for the Football Club to get on with this quickly. It's important to the Category 1 status that it delivers the improvement in facilities, and all we're simply asking is that there is some flexibility over the timing by which that claim is required. We'd be very grateful. We ask for your support.
Okay. Since we've got you there and you've just said something, I'd just like to get clarification. I will go on to discuss this in a bit more detail with the committee, but you mentioned that you might be prepared to make some land available to facilitate a crossing. Could you give quite clarity on that? Is you're saying that you would have you make some land available, or you'd be prepared to sell the land to the council? Could you just clarify that?
No, I think what was intended is there is an existing, I think it's Bridle Way recreational track that needs some improvement of its junction with the road. As we've identified, some of that land is within the control, or will be in the control of the football club, and we're prepared to make that land available for that improvement.
At no charge.
At no charge.
Thank you very much, because there's a distinction between available and available. Thank you for your patience on that. Right, board member, do you wish to speak? Gary?
Thank you, members. I do support this planning application, and I'd like to make the following points. The comments made by the Mid-Berkshire Local Access Forum and the other speakers, I think, highlight a very important point, and I'm glad that the developers seem to have picked up on it, and I would like some sort of a resolution or conclusion to come from it tonight. The heritage conditions are extremely welcome, and as is the communication plan, which is condition 12. Condition 5 does give me some concern, so I'd like to ensure under this condition there is no construction traffic set to use Church Lane. It's very, very narrow, and it would be, I believe it would be used quite considerably. Condition 26 of the travel plan mentions a periodic review, and I would like to say this needs to be a little bit more specific, perhaps every 6 months once the construction starts, so one can evaluate how it's working, and I'd like that to pick up on the Church Lane usage as well. Condition 52 is probably the one that is another issue, in the sense that I'm not sure what the impacts on the local residents be of the floodlighting. And so again, I would ask that this needs to be worded in such a way that there's an opportunity to amend or tweak it at a later date if it does cause a nuisance to residents. As said before by other people, Knoll Road isn't suitable to conform with the national speed limit, and it's actually a very, very busy road. The end result is you get to Winners Crossroads, you come to a grinding halt, or you get to Arville Crossroads and Arville roundabout, and it can flow. So any form of traffic mechanism that can allow the byway crossing to take place would be welcome, and it wouldn't make a great deal of difference to the end part of the journeys. They talk about the only information given in traffic terms is the 4.2% increase in the northbound traffic without any other data. And I think that alone on top of this world traffic road would indicate that there is a reason to want to look at the speed limit on that road. If some of these issues can't be dealt with planning conditions, can I ask the planning commission to recommend that the council highway officers review the speed limits along Mould Road, the junctions of Gravel Pit Hill and Carter's Hill, and make the findings. If it were possible to do it through the planning application, we'd be welcome. But having said that, I would welcome it if the highway officers looked at it. And that all I have to say. Have I got any time left?
5
I will
seconds.
say
Very, very well.
Thank you.
Right. That concludes, I think, all those registered to speak on this application. So I think I'll just try and supplement or summarise some of the points that we made. The proposal would have 2 entrances. One was the Mole Lodge entrance that we parked in, which would be for servicing of the site and for the residential. And the other entrance would be the existing, or albeit blocked off, golf course entrance, which would be the main entrance for the Reading Football Club. The Environment Agency have no objections, subject to a condition which is included in the report. We've clearly heard tonight those magic words, on balance, which I think will largely hinge on CP11 and the MPPF. I think I'm correct in saying there is not actually a public right-of-way crossing or on the site, it is adjacent to the site. And that the residential gain, because there is a net gain on residential, is justifiable by means of, it's a matter that facilitates some of the restoration work to some of the historic buildings and parkland. On site we were concerned about the headquarters building, which seemed quite high, but we now learn that it's 5 metres high. You'll be familiar that a normal single-storey pitch roof building is 4 to 4.5 metres high, so this is not particularly excessive. Although we were concerned at the time that it appeared from the drawings to be large, but there were no dimensions on that. And we've been told that the part of the height is to accommodate machinery and aircon type equipment, which would probably otherwise be rather ugly on the roof. There's clearly issue regarding the loss of the golf club, although in all fairness that has already been lost. Clearly there's the loss of the stables. We've also heard about concerns about the existing traffic speed in Mole Road. I think I think the other points that we've heard tonight that we might wish to look at in a bit more detail is points Gary made about the church restriction of church lane construction traffic to ensure that condition 52 is robust enough so that the floodlighting would not become an issue for residents. And we'll come on to discuss in a bit more detail the issues about the speed of the proposed crossing. So, Rochelle, we'll come to you first.
Since my residents are also the people who are going to be affected by it, the floodlighting I would like them to consult with Winnish Parish Council, and as far as the travel plan as well, to talk with Winnish Parish Council, because we'll be having some of our roads being used in the process, so I would like that, and speed limit as well. Also, I do, on balance, support this application, and would like to suggest they also look at the Winnish Rangers football juniors that are playing up in the parish field nearby.
Thank you. Firstly, can we just cover the issues about the speed limit? It's my understanding that that doesn't form part of this application, and highways are not requiring that, but we do hear residents' concerns about this. I think, if I'm correct, Mole Road has both a 50 limit and a 40 limit along those stretches. Whether the committee should have a minute desire to see a speed limit review with Mole Road. So we can't preempt what that speed limit should be, because the council would need to do that in conjunction with the support of the police. There's no point council putting a speed limit on if the police don't agree, because they won't enforce it. Would that be a reasonable solution, Chris?
That's fine, I guess, to a degree. From just quickly running through, it was mentioned it was a national speed limit. It's not. It's actually, as you say, 40. Obviously, going north towards Winnish, and obviously 50 going south. In terms of the application, we've had a look at obviously the accident data, etc. There were some accidents along that length of road, but none of them are related to. It's predominantly driver error more so than actually an issue with the highway itself. So Simon was right when he said any speed reduction would be required to have a separate process in terms of a section traffic regulation order. which obviously would need the support of the police and obviously to be advertised appropriately. Now, from work with the police in the past, they would need measures to be applied to that road to help enforce that speed reduction, not just apply it and obviously drop the speed limit as it is. So it's something that traffic management and the council can look at moving forward, but through this application and assessing and reviewing it, it's not something. Visibility displays at visibility displays at each of the axes as well have also been significantly improved, cutting back the vegetation to meet the requirements for the speed that currently exists.
Chair. May I speak up? From Gary's point as well, I've included condition 25, which requires demolition and construction traffic routing agreements. So that would cover Gary's concerns over, Councillor Cowan's concerns over Church Road.
And Mill Lane as well. And Mill Lane as well.
Well, it can be reviewed as part of the process.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Bob next.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Just the headquarters building, I just want to get confirmation from Giles, and I think I know what his answer will be, that he's happier with the building containing the machinery inside than he would be to have it outside in the historic park setting.
Okay, just before, Charles Stevens is the council's, because some of you went to Betton, or is the conservation arm. Is that correct? Conservation.
Short answer is yes. It's preferable to keep it underneath, yes.
And the second question I wanted to ask was, as it's subject to SIL now, is we've had representations about putting a Pegasus crossing in. Could that be considered as part of the application and to spend some SIL money on it?
I think it's very unlikely that the Pegasus crossing would be funded just on the strength of this application. But it may be, as SIL monies, as you know, SIL money will also accrue to Arborfield Parish Council. Now they have their own plan as well. So I think there will be sources of funding, but I wouldn't want to be unrealistic. It would be unrealistic for me to say that a Pegasus crossing will be installed in the next few months. So, Chris, did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's okay. That's correct.
Okay. Anything else, Bob?
No, it's fine.
Okay, Chris Singleton.
Thanks, Simon. A couple of highways things over what's been raised. I think just to clarify, we're talking about an increase in traffic volume of 4.2%. What does that mean in terms of the motion floating capacity now? Is it a critical 4.2 or is it still pretty secure? I think, should I just cover the highways ones together? Footpaths and cycleways. I see there's mentions about cycle storage, but I'm not sure what arrangements have been made about cycle links and footpaths. Maybe to actually just show on the drawing up there of what's planned. I'd like to come back on the
I can start and you can finish. Okay. With regards to the residential accommodation in particular, one of the concerns we had was about the sustainability of the scheme and the lack of pedestrian and cycle access to it. The highways officer and the agent for the scheme came up with a very good solution. So there's now a footpath running on the inside of the hedgerow. Due to security reasons, it will be controlled by fob access, but there will be a foot linkway running along here, along the inside of the hedge, coming up and joining into the public footpath network. So that's how that issue is overcome.
I think adding to that, it would be desirable if we could put a footpath open to all users on the public highway, but due to the extent of public highway available and obviously the land with planting that's obviously already in place, it wasn't appropriate to obviously take them all out. Looking also at the number of users that walk along that section, it wasn't deemed to be high that this development would be required to input such a facility. Therefore, the facility that they've provided is to accommodate their application and the residents on their site linking to the road, linking to the footpath that exists leading to the North of Moor Road. In terms of the 4.2%, there is a figure that's in there. We probably should have put some more of the actual figures in there instead. But it kind of leads to the point of the junction. It's not high when you look at what exists already on the site. Everyone still needs to bear in mind that development could reinstate as it currently is, a golf course, big question, etc., etc. We've then taken we're lucky to obviously have the development that exists in the Hogwood area to be able to assess the level of traffic associated with that as it is, use that as a baseline figure to apply that to what already is on the site now, to get an understanding of the base, to understand that there's only a net increase of around 27 vehicles from the development in the peak hours. Therefore, the majority of, I'm assuming the footballers tend to have a peak, as most of us do. Therefore, the traffic associated with this development is typically off-peak. Obviously, you've got the housing, you've got some staff, etc. So we're looking at, say, Mole Road and Mill Lane roundabout, the New Road roundabout. You've got increases there from straight ahead movements from 278 vehicles to 282 vehicles, for example, in the northern movement. So it's not enough. It's a small, when you distribute it out the site, that it doesn't have a significant impact on any of the local junctions.
So none of those are near capacity at present?
No, they're all operating within capacity as they are.
Thank you. Simon, just on the question of the headquarters building, it does talk about the headquarters building being part of a cluster of buildings there in the notes. I think it quite clearly isn't. It is remote. Now, there may be very good reasons within the running of the facility not to have them together. But as it is remote like that, it is a key position in terms of it's being visible from the lake, from generally around there. Really, we've had assurances on the height issue. What about materials in terms of it being discreet so that it doesn't intrude too much?
Materials are secured by Condition 2. On all the buildings, English Heritage are very keen to secure the best possible materials are used to integrate with the historic park. So when it comes to the material stage, we'll be giving that significant scrutiny.
Thank you.
Malcolm.
Just 3 points quickly to cover. Lights, noise and screening really. On the lights, it's a training ground rather than a conventional match thing. So I imagine it'll be a bunch of people running around, but it's not going to have a big evening matches with large teams and big crowds. So will there actually be floodlighting or will there be lower level lights? That's the first question.
It will be floodlighting. It will be used for training, although there will be, for younger groups especially, there will be matches held at the training ground. However, it will run as a normal training facility, and it's not going to be drawing large amounts of crowds or anything like that. It's going to be parents and that kind of thing.
Okay. And will they be screened so that they won't actually jut out into the road for people driving down there? Because I've been past areas where sometimes the lights are quite bright and they're not screened against the road.
Sorry, I think someone's on. The lights of the pitches are set well back from the site, so they're back here, and so they're a reasonable distance off away from the road. Inevitably, you'll be able to see some amount of lighting, but we will control the hours that they're on, so they're not on unreasonable times. And due to the separation distances to properties, floodlights nowadays are very good at focusing the light in the correct direction. So neither I or the environmental health officer have any significant concerns over light spill, really.
Second part of that was a similar comment about noise. There won't be large audiences watching big games, so I imagine there's not going to be enormous amounts of noise. Do we have any indication of what would be an acceptable level or any controls on that?
Again, the time games can be played obviously on most of the pitches will be controlled obviously by natural light, so you're not going to be in the winter months, especially in football season, you're not going to be getting games going on late into the evening on those pitches, and it's not really set up for huge crowds coming down. That's obviously what the stadium's for, but it's not going to be significant numbers of people down there, and the environmental health officers is happy.
Okay. The last point, screening and hedging. There is greenery along the road anyway, I'm told that's going to be beefed up quite a bit. The reason for asking that is adequate is that I've been in areas where if there's a sports field, especially if it's a well-known team or sports thing, people drive around and they walk out the windows while they're driving. So if there's nothing to look at because it's all greenery, it's a safer thing. Will it be adequate to prevent onlookers driving potentially dangerously?
There will be adequate screening. In fact, it's something that the football club and all football clubs are very keen on, because they don't want people particularly looking through and looking at their tactics and training methods. So retaining significant screening on the side is quite a high priority for the club, so I don't think it will be so low that people will be able to passively see it, let alone actively try and see it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As we have heard, it is an unbalanced, this one tonight, and I am struggling with which way to go, because it's clearly against policy CP11, which is very significant. It is 5,700 square metres of new floor space in the countryside, which is another big no for me. Then we've got the NPPF, say encouraging sport in rural areas, but there's going to be no community access to it. So that's not a positive. Then I've looked at some of the reasons why we've been told that it is, and that there's one such one is that there's no alternative site. That worries me, because if this is the only site in the borough suitable for football pitches, and it's going to be a private facility, I don't think that's good. Another one positive, it says the government will provide much needed housing. I was under the understanding that we had a 5-year housing supply, so that doesn't quite ring true for me. So a third reason was it was going to provide 60 new jobs on site, and I welcome sort of 60 jobs. But I do wonder how much is going to be lost to the local economy by the players no longer needing sort of hotel rooms, using the restaurants and bars, if they're going to be on premises all the time. And the last one is, I did see the mill, and I would like that to be rejuvenated, but the public are not going to see those buildings, and I suspect even with this, without this application, in time, that they will be brought into use. And from what I've heard tonight about brownfield sites, I guess we're not going to be getting any affordable housing on the mill. Thank you.
To answer as many of those as I can.
I think quite a lot of them are statements rather than questions, but I'd be interested to hear your answers.
I can reassure on some of the issues anyway. I've covered the issue of which of site selection really in my report. In terms of can football pitches be provided in a lot of locations, yes they can, but realistically, in terms of sites that can deliver what is in reality Premier League standard training grounds, they are few and far between, and not a lot come on the market. I mean, the football club's been looking for a number of years to relocate, and seen one site near Aldermaston which was borderline suitable, and then the rest tend to be the very open fields with limited building stock on them, and don't have the kind of screening around them that these do. And so there's always going to be a need for a certain amount of facility that comes with these things. And so if you have a site where, as we discussed earlier on, there's a substantial amount of screening around it, and other benefits can be secured to help. There is harm to the countryside, there's no getting around that. With other benefits, if there's going to be harm, there's no likelihood of it being located in a settlement location, because any land of that size will be used for housing. It's a 50-hectare site, and so that is it's going to have competition for that kind of thing there. On the housing issue, we have got a housing land supply. I mean, obviously we're encouraged to make efficient use of land where possible, and any housing provided goes towards a national housing need effectively. But that's because we have a housing supply. That's why we need proportion very limited weight to that issue. The jobs that are retained on the site, you say, the mill building, whether or not it would come back into viable use or not is an issue for debate really, because it is in a very bad state of repair, and there are quite a lot of unusual costs on the site, and so whether or not it would come back in is a matter for debate. But overall really, the big issue that I have to put forward to members is there are significant historical benefits to the scheme, and as we said, although it's not accessed by the public, the NPPF is very clear in its appendixes. The public benefit is derived from the protection of heritage assets, and a heritage asset is very firmly defined in that policy, in much the same way that you probably won't be going into the private sections of Windsor Castle or Buckingham Palace anytime soon, but it's in the public interest that they're retained.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Question.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the site visit. As the visual aspect is obviously of paramount importance in this application, I will abstain.
Okay, let's see if we can get a few other issues just resolved. Just to be clear, the speed limit, we're going to minute the request that the speed limit is moved. That's what we agreed. Got that, Tricia? Okay. In terms of the crossing, there was concerns about the crossing. This does not form part of the planning application itself or the site. Therefore, it's not something that we're going to do on the hoof. Sorry, no pun intended. I think what we need to do is we would minute, if it's a correct reflection, minute members' support for improved safety at the intersection of that. I'm not sure it's actually bridleway or byway with Mole Road. It's byway. So if we could minute our wish to see that. I should actually just mention that I also, for many years, served on the Mid and West Berkshire Local Access Forum, and so I'm familiar with its aims until about 3 years ago, and I understand what they're trying to do and would broadly support that. The other issue I just think we need to explore is we heard from the applicant's agent there were issues about the timing and flexibility of the Section 106 agreement there. I'm a little bit wary about that, not least because, as we've heard, this is already an on-balance decision. I just wonder whether you could elaborate a little bit on what you're thinking.
I have some concerns about this, and I would prefer that because a lot of the issues are very interconnected. I think there is a certain element of risk in allowing things to come forward before all the details are agreed. However, we could explore some issues that might be able to, and the mechanism that we could potentially do that is that issues relating to phasing could be dedicated to the head of development management if members thought it was appropriate, but that would be something for Claire to consider.
Yes, Chairman, I think that as Ashley's explained, this is an unbalanced decision, and one of the key elements that makes it acceptable in officers' opinion is that there are significant improvements as a result of the development which would outweigh those harmful issues that we've addressed. However, we do understand that the football club is keen to get on site, and there are certain elements that potentially could be started and commenced. However, I think that each particular element needs to be looked at on its individual merits, and I think that we need to probably sit down and discuss a little bit more with the applicant and their agent about what that could potentially mean. And also, we would need to address that with English Heritage, who have been very much involved as part of the whole process. So I'm very reluctant to agree that a wholesale, yes, let's have that element of flexibility. But I would certainly suggest that in the implementation of this development and looking at those conditions, that there would be an element of flexibility adopted by officers on a relatively informal basis. So my view is I think that we stick with the conditions we've got, and that we have an agreement, an ongoing negotiation to try and see if we can accommodate the football club to the best of our ability.
Will members support that approach? Yeah. Okay, so we'll do that rather than try and change it as well. Right, members, are there any other points members would like to cover on this application? In that that case, we'll put it straight to the vote. Members, you've got the application for Reading Football Club on the site of the former Berry Golf Course. We've also got some amendments, changes to the conditions, which are detailed on page 5 and 6. 5, 6 and 7 of the members' report. Yeah.
And also the possibility of any additional drainage matters arising from WSP.
Yes, that has to form part of that. So,
The change recommendation.
yeah, the recommendation will be just recommendation B. So there's 2 recommendations on page 160 to cover both eventualities. We now see that this is clearly not going to come in primarily under the section 106 regime, so it falls to recommendation B, which relates to SIL, although obviously the 106 agreement I think looks at Plymouth and affordable housing as well. So members, could you please indicate when you're willing to support this application? 6, that's 6. And Tim, what are you?
Against.
You're against, and Chris, you're abstaining because you didn't attend the site. Okay, so that application is carried by 6 votes. Thank you, members. And could I ask people to this application to leave so we can move on to the next one?